I'm sorry, I should have started the recording earlier, but I didn't. So, anyways, so what I'm saying is that if there is a disagreement between you and the technical person, okay, and what you can actually do is if you request a technical person to develop something, and the technical people push back, developers push back, okay, and there's a disagreement. So you have to think from their perspective. You have to think, step into their shoes and think why this is not a possibility. Is it because of too much of time required? Is it the effort estimation? Or what exactly is it? And going back to one of our examples, or one of my own personal examples, experiences, there was a particular module which required a lot of manual intervention. There was this process which required a lot of manual intervention or a lot of manual work on a system. So business stakeholders came in and said, you know what, let's automate this process because it's too much time consuming. We don't like it. Well, sure, automation is always a good thing. Who can say no to automation, first of all? Nobody. Automation is great, it's brilliant. Let's do it. So as a BA, I gathered the requirements. I came up with a design, went to developers and said, look, you know what, this is what we're going to do. What do you think? They said, nope. I said, why? This is an automation of a very old process, which the company doesn't want to spend any additional man hours. They want to focus on other things. Okay, they don't want their analysts to work on this repetitive process. Okay, it brings down our efficiency. So let's automate this. And these are the requirements. This is what needs to be done. Developers said, nope, this is a huge effort. We cannot do this. This will take over 1,000 hours of development. So I am the BA. Developer says we cannot do it. Business stakeholders say, no, we want it. I am stuck in between. What do I do? So I analyze the situation. I see that, okay, so this is the process. This is how this is done, or this particular module works. A person comes in and does all these things manually, and then this process works. Wow, it really takes a lot of time. I really wish this could be automated, but developers say no, it's very expensive. We can do it, but not this year. We have other projects to work on. We don't have bandwidth available. So as a BA, what do I do? There's a conflict between me and technical people. My job as a BA is to analyze the existing situation and come up with other alternatives. You know what I did personally? I came up with another solution which involved only partial automation. Instead of fully automating that process A, I said, you know what, let's partially automate it. The most time consuming parts, let's automate that part. Everything else manual is fine. Technical people were like, well, no, okay, this sounds a lot better, but maybe we don't have the time bandwidth. I said, look, no, hold on. I'm willing to meet you halfway. I came up with this design. Let's automate the most painful points of this process, and everything else you can leave manual. Instead of spending 1,000 development hours, you have to spend only 300. 300 is fine. I involved my project manager, my director. They said, okay, we can talk to the stakeholders. We can get you the funding for additional 300 hours of development, get you overtime. Please do it. And they did it. So my point is, whenever you are in any conflict with business people or technical people, all you have to do is analyze the situation from both sides, from your perspective, from business perspective, technical perspective, understand the risks involved, understand what is the effort required, why is it exactly is this a conflict, okay, why exactly is this conflict, what's the nature of the conflict. You have to understand things from all perspective, business and technical, okay, and then come up with different possibilities. Instead of doing solution A, can we do solution B? Can we do solution C? And solution B can be, let's not do it at all. Okay, that's also a solution. Let's not do it. But if they really want it, come up with another solution. You have to think from business and technical standpoint for every project, every implementation. And whenever there's a conflict, you have to understand things from both perspectives, document it, present it, involve your leadership so that there's no miscommunication. They are there to support you. Your project manager will be there to support you. And then you can hash out those differences. Does that make sense, guys? I mean, I didn't use the exact words from an interview perspective, but I just wanted to give you an insight of how things work. Okay, this is something you can form your own words and then probably communicate this in an interview or whoever you're talking to. And this is a real life example. I'm not making any stuff up. Okay, and we ended up building a partially automated process. Okay, because you have to understand this thing that many of these companies, healthcare, finance, banking, many of their systems are really old. Okay, and these days a lot of companies are trying to upgrade their systems. Okay, they don't have an all these tech savvy young 24-year-old programmers like Netflix does. Okay, who are constantly working day and night, coming up with new ideas and just upgrading their system. Because Netflix is not regulated, right? Netflix and Uber and Facebook and Instagram, these are not regulated. They can play around with their applications and software. But these banking and healthcare, they are very regulated. It's not easy for them to make changes to their system on a daily basis. Every change requires a lot of very thoughtful analysis, deep analysis. Okay, and then you need approvals from a number of teams, compliance teams and quality assurance and other people. So anytime they want to upgrade their system, anytime they want to enhance their system, make changes to their system, they have to think from a number of directions. Okay, are we breaking any laws here? Are we breaking any rules here? Are we breaking any government rules here? Are we interrupting any existing process by making this change or not? Because we don't want our customers to know that we made an update or we made a change, something like that. So this is another important point which you guys can bring up during an interview, that being in the healthcare industry or banking industry or finance industry, every change requires a lot of very deep and thoughtful analysis. And as a BA, my job is to understand the impact from a business and technical standpoint, document everything, and not only document the solution, but also document the risks, document opportunities. Okay, if I am presenting a case to automate a certain process A, well, there are risks involved. What if this automation thing doesn't work? What if this automation thing doesn't deliver the exact results we used to deliver? Okay, so but the opportunity is that, okay, a lot of hours or manpower hours will be saved. We don't have to spend that much of time and all these things. So you can say all these things during an interview. Make sense, guys? I mean, do you know what I'm trying to say? I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to share my experience with you, more or less. Make sense? Okay. What else? Another interview question can be, okay, so why exactly are you leaving your job? Why are you looking for a new job? Okay, and then most of these cases, whenever a business analyst, contractor like you is looking for a job, a great answer can be that wherever I'm working right now. So, for example, this guy is working for Beasley Health Insurance or whatever this client is. So wherever I'm working right now, I mean, I love my job. I love working for my team. My team is great. It was a great learning experience. But I'm a contractor. My contract is about to expire. Okay. My contract will be expiring in June, sometime in June. So I'm looking for new positions. Okay. Or whatever may be the reason, just say it. But don't say something like, you know what, I hate my current job, the people I work with are idiots, and I just want to do something new. Okay, so avoid saying anything negative about your current job or current employer. Okay, always highlight the positives, that I've learned a lot. Before coming to this job, they might ask you, okay, before coming to this job, what did you not know and what have you improved on? Well, before this job, my SQL skills were like okay, and now they are great. Thanks to my team. It was a great learning experience. They gave me a lot of opportunities to learn. Okay. They can ask you, what are you doing in your current position? Well, initially I was hired to implement a certain project. Okay. And so, for example, this guy is, I don't know, project name claims processing system to create process claims faster and efficiently. So maybe this guy was hired to implement some claim processing system. Okay, or maybe build a new claim processing system or work on some changes on the claim processing system. So what you can say is that initially I was hired by this client, my existing client, to implement a new claim processing system. And then I I spent first few months implementing this project, going through all the phases of SDLC, all of my time. And then now I think I'm spending almost 50-60% of my time in implementing other small projects, and remainder of my time I'm just maintaining the current book of business. Okay, so I'm not just implementing things anymore. I am, but only half of the time. Half of the time I'm doing other MOBs, maintenance of business. They'll say, okay, well, maintenance of business, what do you mean by maintenance of business? Well, ad hoc reporting, troubleshooting of claims, troubleshooting of member eligibility, working with the benefits team. What's a benefits team? Now I'm just telling you what exactly it is. It's not how you say in an interview. But let's say all of us buy health insurance for ourselves, right? I buy a cheaper plan, an HMO plan. You guys buy an expensive PPO plan. Okay, Akshay buys a really expensive plan with very low deductible. We all buy different plans. So when we buy plans and we buy all these health insurances for ourselves, we get treatments, we all have different kinds of benefits. I am not allowed to go to really expensive doctors. I'm not allowed to get the best possible expensive treatment in the world. Why? Because my plan is really cheap, but your plan is really expensive. You can go to Stanford Hospital. I cannot. How does the system know the difference? System knows the difference because we are enrolled in different plans, and these plans are coded in the system. In the background, these plans are coded in the system. How much is our deductible, what doctors we can see, what medications we can get, how much we will have to pay out of pocket for these medications, how much do you have to pay for a doctor visit, how much do you have to pay for a specialist visit. Everything is coded in the back end. Who does this coding? The benefit programmer, the person who codes benefits. So your job as a BA is to work with these benefits people. Let me see. Where's that EDI file of ours? Like this guy is getting enrolled in, where's that? Platinum 2500. This guy is getting enrolled in Platinum 2500 plan. Okay. What does 2500 Platinum 2500 mean? Means his deductible is 2500. I'm just assuming. Okay. $2,500 of deductible. Platinum means that he can go to really expensive doctors and hospitals. It's a platinum plan and whatever. But how does a claim processing engine know, or this claim processing process know that I can go to an expensive hospital but the other person can, or whatever? How does the system know? Because we all are enrolled in different plans, and these plans are coded in the system, and within these plans there is a different configuration. It's called benefit configuration is coded in the system. Write this down. Use this term in the interview. Okay. Benefit configuration programming is done. By whom? The benefits programmer. Based on what? Based on whatever you tell him. Who's you? The BA. The BA tells the benefit programmer that we have 5 new different plans coming up in the market. Plan number 1 is cheaper plan. These are the benefits. Plan number 2 is expensive plan. They have better benefits and so on. These are the list of doctors patients can see. These are the list of doctors this group can see. All that stuff. Okay. So you work with benefits team. Okay. You work with benefits team. You work with all these different teams for all different variety of all these purposes where you assist them with their work, but by communicating the requirements. Okay, so for example, back in the day, I had Cigna plan, Cigna $1,500 deductible. After a couple of years, they shut down their plan. They said, you know what, we no longer offer this plan. We are coming up with a new plan, Cigna 2000. It's the same price, but deductible is higher. So all these changes were made in the back end in the system. Deductible values were updated or limits were updated. List of doctors were updated. Who does this? Benefits person. But who tells the benefit person? You, the BA. This is all maintenance of business stuff. Make sense, guys? I mean, do you get my point? Do coders do benefit configuration? Benefit coders, yes. They're called benefit coders. Yes, they do benefit configuration. Yes, not you. Not you. What else, guys? What else do you think? Look at this guy. Hold on. Yeah. Anything about your current project? Gurdeep has a question. Could you please explain again? Oh, sure, why not? Excuse me. So, let's assume, Gurdeep, that, you buy a certain insurance plan, okay? And then, I think you live in Indianapolis, all right? So, you buy a certain health insurance plan. And then, Kiran also buys another insurance plan. Okay, you buy an expensive plan with better benefits. Kiran buys some other plan with different set of benefits. Okay, you both have different deductible value limits. You have $1,000 deductible. She has a $1,500 deductible. Okay, you can go to a different set of hospitals. She can go to a different set of hospitals and doctors. Your copay payments are different than hers. So all these things, I really hope not you have to go to a hospital for any case. But let's say you go to a doctor or a hospital, you get a certain treatment, or you see a consult a doctor for certain medical problem or whatever. You will end up paying a different amount out of pocket. You will have a different set of limitations which doctor you can or cannot see than Kiran. My question is, where are these things coded in the system? How does the system know at the time of claim processing, when a claim comes in, that how much you are supposed to pay as co-payment versus how much Kiran is supposed to pay for co-payment? How does the system know? System in this phase, the fourth step, validate benefit provider administration rules. System looks at what benefit, what plan you are enrolled in, and what does this plan have. This plan has all these list of doctors. This plan will cover all these kind of treatments, all these kind of medications. For this medication, this is how much you will pay. For this medication, this is how much you will pay. Your deductible limit is $1,000. Kiran's deductible limit is $1,500. All these things are coded in the system. They are called plan benefits. What kind of benefits you are allowed to have. So these are called benefits which are coded in the system. Do you code these benefits? No. Who's you? The BA. BA does not code anything. But BA communicates these changes or these benefits to the benefit coder. Your job is to work with a benefit coder and say, look, starting 2019, we're going to have a new plan in our company, new health plan, new health insurance plan, which is called Diamond 1000. Only $1,000 deductible, and it has covers best hospitals, best treatments, best of everything. You can go anywhere you want. These are all the details. Code this in the system. You tell this to a benefit coder, he will code that in the system. Does that make sense? Gurdeep, does it answer your question? Okay, that's great. No, I mean, if anything doesn't make sense, please feel free to ask me, because if you haven't worked for a healthcare organization, these are the kind of things you will be exposed to. Okay, and unless you're there, how would you know any of this? None of this is documented anywhere. Okay, you cannot just get a book from a library and know all this stuff. You have to talk to a person who has actually been through all these situations. Luckily I have, and then I would want to share my experience with you. Okay, so these are the kind of situations when a person like you will be involved in. They would ask you something like, okay, so let's assume that let me pull up that document. Oh God, where is it? Did I even save it? Yeah, I think I saved it. Here it is. Let me expand the font size. Okay. If they ask you that, if you have to implement a project like HIPAA 4010 to 5010, okay, 4010 to 5010. What is 4010 to 5010? What is HIPAA? What is 4010 5010? These are version numbers for EDI transactions. 837, 834, 835, 276, 277, all those transactions. EDI transactions. Government wants the industry or healthcare companies to upgrade their system from 4010 version to 5010 version. That's what government wants you to do. When I say government, I actually mean CMS, the federal government. Okay, CMS, Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. CMS wants you to make this change. This project comes to you. You are the BA. What do? What is your approach to build a system or to work on an enhancement like this? What do? Well, my first step is to analyze how the current system or how the current setup is looks like in our system. How does HIPAA 4010 look like in our system? I would go through that documentation. I would look at how EDI transactions look like in our system as of today. What's today? HIPAA 4010. 4010 version. What's 4010? It's a version number, just like iPhone 6, iPhone 7. So I just want to see how the iPhone 6 looks like as of today. What are we using? I want to go through in and out of iPhone 6. Before I start building iPhone 7, I want to see how are we doing things as of today, because I am looking for improvement. Improvement is a relative term. Improve on what? There has to be a baseline. This is the baseline. HIPAA 4010 is the baseline. This is what the industry is using as of today. HIPAA 4010. And then I would analyze what does the 5010 guide says. 4010 and 5010. compare both of them. 4010 is something we are currently using, we currently have built in our system. 5010 is something government wants us to upgrade to. Okay, I document our I document, these are the loops and segments. I document what's in our system as of today under 4010. Okay, this is the fourth column. 4010, look at this. I document the current state of the system as is, and then I document the future state of the system to be. Based on my analysis, I would perform the gap analysis. I would analyze first what our current system looks like. Then I would analyze how the future system would look like, or what the future system should work like. Today and in future, I would compare both. Whatever is the gap is called gap analysis. So I would document my current system and then I would document the future system. Compare both of them. That process is called gap analysis. And based on the identified gap, all the identified gaps are my business requirements and technical requirements. In 4010, these are all the codes used. But in 5010, only these two codes are allowed. What do we do with the rest? We delete them. So, in my notes, I would write codes deleted. Which ones? The highlighted ones. This is the gap. This is the gap that 21 ADFI and then NI and then PP. These are all the codes which are no longer used in, which will no longer be used in future. What do we do then? We get rid of them. Get rid of them how? Well, I have to document the change. Document what? Document business requirements. How do I do that? I document business requirement. Based on that business requirement, I document technical requirement. I meet with the developer, give him a walkthrough. He documents the change. I test the change, and we're good. So, for a project of that nature, any enhancement project, let me generalize this question, guys. Any enhancement project, your approach as a business analyst is to first analyze the current system, then analyze the future system. You compare both of them and perform gap analysis. You prepare the formal document called gap analysis. When gap analysis is done, based on the identified gap, you document the business requirements. You convert your business requirements into technical requirements. You work with the developer, explain the requirements, test the requirements, your job is done. Does it make sense, guys? Make sense? Doesn't make sense? What do you think, guys? Come on. What is your preferred way of gathering requirements? Well, as a BA, I try to kick off my project with a chat session. We have few of those, and then we end up having one-on-one interview sessions or workshop sessions in future. But first few meetings are always a chat session, and then I kick off those meetings. I facilitate those meetings, and you guys know the drill. I mean, the way they are conducted and what you do in those chat sessions. How would you approach? So an interview might ask that, okay, so if we hire you as a business analyst, and we bring you to implement a project, or we bring you to enhance a current project, a current system. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of documentation available. We don't have a lot of documents, or we don't have a lot of things documented very well. Okay, what would be your approach? What would you do? Well, as a business analyst, when I'm brought into a project, I'm always expected to hit the ground running. So what I would do is, first of all, I would analyze whatever is available. Whatever documentation is available, I would go through all of them. Okay, I would attend all the meetings. Okay, I would attend all the meetings and listen very carefully, try to make sense out of try to make sense out of things. Okay, sense of everything. And then once I have understood the basic infrastructure, basic team environment, I would then formulate some good questions, that what exactly is the nature, what exactly we are trying to do. So based on those, I would formulate some good questions, and then I would ask my peers or my managers those questions. Okay. Now I understand. People are busy and they don't have that much of time to train you on everything. So I would ask good questions, intelligent questions. So analyze whatever is available. Read all the documents. Attend all the meetings. Try to make sense out of everything. Put everything together. Whatever you understand, based on what you understand, if you have any questions, you ask those questions. And then, once you have a good understanding, you are a productive resource. Sorry, make sense? If I ask about preferred way of gathering requirements in Agile, well, in Agile, of course, things are a little bit different. I gather requirements exactly the same way I would gather requirements in Waterfall. Okay, but I would make sure that there's a very strict time constraint for that particular sprint or iteration. So I have to keep that in mind. Based on that, I would make sure that we as a team stick to that particular scope of that iteration. Okay, only stick to that scope of that particular iteration and understand the requirements only for that iteration. I would document everything in whatever tool we are using, Rally or whatever. I would document everything in the presence of the team, and then I would break down the work effort, communicate everything very clearly to the developers so that they can be productive from day 1, 2, or 3. Understand the scope. I would make them understand the scope. I will give them a walkthrough of the scope so that they can be productive. Of course, we don't have formal big giant sessions just like Waterfall, but whatever requirements are gathered, I would just document it, work with the developer, and then let's get the ball rolling. The speed is different. Okay, the pace is different. The volume of documentation is different. But the fundamentals of requirements gathering are not different. Fundamentals of requirements gathering and conducting a walkthrough to the developers is still the same. The only thing which is different is the pace, the volume of requirements, or the intensity of requirements, the intensity of details. That's a little bit different. Do we conduct JAT sessions in Agile too? Well, maybe at the time of kickoff of the project, just to get an overall understanding. Maybe, depends. If it's a really intense implementation, you have four-week sprint, yes, you can. But JAT teams are a little smaller than Agile, don't get me wrong, and it's definitely not a textbook definition, it's just my own definition. JAT teams are usually huge, okay, or JAT sessions are generally huge. And don't take this too seriously as a grain of salt, but agile teams are a lot smaller in size. And although we do have chat sessions, don't get me wrong, maybe as a kickoff, but the participation is minimal. The level of details we discuss or the scope of details we discuss is little minimal. We don't get too much deep dive into everything, and we only make sure we stick to only that particular agenda or part of the agenda. And so yeah. What else? What else, guys? What do you think? Does it make sense? Does it make sense? And mapping document. Yeah, talk about mapping documents too. Talk about vendors. Okay. Talk about that as a healthcare entity. You working for a healthcare insurance company or any healthcare entity, you are responsible to work with multiple additional, sorry, external vendors. These vendors send you claims. These vendors send you eligibility, 834 files, or a lot of data. A lot of data. And the other way around, you are sending data to a lot of external vendors. You are sending data and you are receiving data. And before you actually start receiving and sending data, you have to agree on a certain format. If this is their format and this is my format, my system will end up loading the wrong data in the wrong place. They will load first name in the provider ID field. That's not what we want. So I cannot just say that, okay, you will be sending me data for me to download in my system. Okay, you know what? Start sending it for tomorrow. No. It doesn't work like that. I have to see what format you will be sending data in. What format I am okay with. Are they the same? They are not. So how do we make sure that they are the same? So when you send the data, I have to build a software in my system which looks out for your file, tracks down that file, takes your file, convert it to my format, and then downloads in the system. That's called conversion program. Let me repeat. When two entities, let's say you and me, Akshay wants to send me data every day, and I am supposed to take that data and download and save it in my system. Before we start sending and receiving data, I have to make sure, I have to check with Akshay that what exact format you'll be sending me data. And then I will compare it with my own format. Is it the same? If it's the same, fine, go ahead, start sending. If it's not the same, what do? We map those fields. I will, as a business analyst, map those fields. I will take your first field and take it, copy it on my fourth field. I would take my system will take your format and convert it to our format, and then we will download. So who does this mapping work? The BA. Who interacts with the vendors? The BA. Who will present our own format? The BA. So as a business analyst, your job is to work with these vendors. Data mapping. Troubleshooting. So for example, data mapping is done. Akshay says that I'm going to send you data in this format. I said, you know what? Okay, I will work with my programmer and convert it to my format. Based on what? Based on mapping. Based on mapping rules. My programmer writes a conversion program, conversion software, which converts Akshay's format to my format and then downloads in the system. I said, okay, start sending me the first file on 1st of July. And you do so. And you send it. Who's you? The Akshay, the vendor. keep sending the file. I'm supposed to receive it and download it, and then I don't download it. Something goes wrong. There's an error. Whose job is it to troubleshoot that error? The BA. BA will go to the system, retrieve that file, and see what's going on. Look at the error code. Analyze the problem, analyze the situation. Create a defect. Have the developer look into it if you don't have an answer. If you do have an answer, provide your analysis. Make sense, guys? So troubleshooting is another thing you will be doing. With whom? The vendors. What else? Let's look at the profile. Agile and waterfall we have already discussed. Media transactions you're most comfortable with. You can say 837, 834. Your responsibility. Well, any upgrades in the system, I do it. Any troubleshooting work, I do it. Have you ever done UAT, user acceptance testing? Yes, definitely. How did you do UAT? Well, before deploying the project to production, I would conduct a walkthrough of the features and functionalities to the actual business stakeholder to get their input. This is after all testing is done. All errors have been rectified and everything is fixed. I will work with the developer, not developer, sorry, but I'll work with the business stakeholder and give him a walkthrough that this is what we have built and these are the features and functionalities. And once I have their approval, we can deploy the project to production. So I, as a BA, am responsible for UAT. I have done it numerous times and I'm very comfortable. Make sense, guys? What is your responsibility during testing? During testing phase, what do you do? Note this answer down. I think I discussed this already yesterday. I don't know if I did. I've been training a lot of people for interviews these days, so I really don't remember what I'm discussing in what class. Well, but anyways, what is your responsibility during testing? Well, I take approved set of business requirements as a foundation. So based on the approved set of business requirements as a foundation, I document my test cases and test scripts. Let me repeat. Based on the approved set of business requirements, I document my test cases and test scripts. Once test cases and test scripts are approved, I execute those test cases in the test server. I execute them. I actually do the testing of the system on the test server. If there are defects, I create a defect. If there are no defects, I have just passed the test case. So test script is just a column inside the test case. For test script. Yeah, this is a test script. Test case are the different possibilities of testing. Okay, all the possibilities. Test script is the actual step-by-step instructions. How to actually do the testing. Step number 1, do this. Step number 2, do that. How do you actually test the system? You document everything. If in future anything goes wrong, they're going to ask the same ask the question that was this tested? Yes, we did. How was it tested? Like this. These are the different steps taken to test the system. Make sense, guys? Gurdeep says, could you please explain Edifex? Well, there's no short answer to explain Edifex. Edifex is just another massive tool for EDI, and there are a number of things you can do on Edifex. One of the things what you can do is on Edifex there's a graphical user interface, and you can input information, and that will create an EDI file for you, a test EDI file. There's an Edifex EDI analyzer. Okay, you can analyze your EDI transactions on that platform. And then there is an X engine which processes your EDI transactions. So there are different modules of Edifex. Unfortunately, there is no short answer. What I can do is I can send you some classes, which I thought I told you yesterday, which I would. I didn't, I think. I'm sorry. I'll send you the link for those classes on YouTube. There are like 6-7 classes, not very long. Go through all of them and it will give you a basic understanding of what that tool does. It does pretty much everything related to Edifex. Any mapping rules, if they have to be coded in the system, you can do it on Edifex. So that when the claim comes or that EDI file comes in, they are mapped correctly. I have some doubts on UML. Can you please give high level information? Yeah, go ahead. Do you have any particular question or yeah, go ahead. Just as a whole. Okay, well, they ask you, okay, so are you familiar with UML, Unified Modeling Language? Yes, I am. What do you do? Well, once I have understood the excuse me, once I have understood the scope of the project, once I have understood different scenarios of the system, different scenarios, different situations of the system, based on my understanding, I create all the diagrammatic representations in MS Visio. What diagrammatic representations? Business process flow from top to bottom, how the process looks like, what is the flow of the process, swim lane diagrams, use cases, data flow diagrams, to put the project in a pictorial perspective. Okay, the project looks, I mean the way the project works, or the way the whole processes work, the scenarios work, we document everything in terms of business requirements, in the form of business requirements or technical requirements. But those are just words. To put everything in pictorial perspective, we use MS Visio to create all the diagrammatic representations to highlight different scenarios and different moving parts of the system. All that is done in MS Visio. That is my tool of choice. If I want to define the business process from the first step all the way to the last step, I can do so on MS Visio. If I want to wire money from my bank account, I can define this whole process in a pictorial from a pictorial perspective using MS Visio. Step number 1, I log in. Step number 2, I select my account. Excuse me. If I have to put together all the instances of the project in pictorial form like this, I can do so. All this is covered in requirements. So they will say, what's the value of this when you have covered everything in requirements? Well, the requirements is just a set of words. Presenting these pictorial representations with my along with my business requirements helps the stakeholders to understand the exact situation. It gives them the confidence that me as a business analyst, I as a business analyst has understood completely what exactly they communicated to me. If I'm missing anything, they would just let me know. If I'm missing any any situation or scenario or any process, they will let me know. This is just a pictorial version of requirements, or BRD. So as part of the requirements phase, or as an extension of the requirements phase, or if you want to just use the actual term, which is a design phase, the separate design phase, I as a business analyst, what would do is, based on my understanding of the requirements, based on my understanding of the different situations, scenarios, I would not only document all the requirements verbally in the verbal format, which is an RTM and BRD and TRD, I would put everything in pictorial perspective and present it to the team. What team? Stakeholders, technical people, so that they understand what's going on. If when developer looks at this, he knows what part of the system I'm talking about. What part of the system will all these processes be carried out in? This top lane. He can segregate. All these examples. Make sense, guys? I mean, this is a credit card processing. I have defined requirements for this already, but I still put this in pictorial perspective. Why? So that the business stakeholder, when he looks at it, it would make him realize, if I as a business analyst, I have clearly understood all his expectations, documented all of his expectations, and are we on track to build the project according to the business stakeholders' expectations or not? If anything is missing, he would let me know right away. Who's me? The BA. Make sense, guys? Does it answer your question? Okay. Well, hold on. What else? What else do we have? Difference between HL7 and EDI transactions. This is another thing they can ask. Okay, what's the difference between HL7 and EDI? Well, EDI transactions are, for example, let's say 837 and 834. They are referring to healthcare entities, from hospital to insurance company, back and forth, or different between vendors and to an healthcare entity. But HL7 is all clinical data, instances of patient movement, enrollment, migration within a clinical setting. What does that mean? Well, all the registration of a patient, movement of a patient, discharge of a patient, all of that information is recorded in the form of ADT messages, and those ADT messages are actually in HL7 format. What was your favorite project and why? What did you accomplish? So whatever project, one of your projects in your resume, which you understand very well, you can say this particular implementation 2 years ago, no per se. So basically that's the difference between EDI 837 and EDI 834. No. 837 is claims, medical bill sent by the hospital to the insurance company. That's 837. 834 is when member is enrolled in the health insurance company system. 834, when member is being enrolled in the system. So HL7 transactions are when patient is moving from cardiology department to neurosurgery department, and when the patient is discharged, patient is admitted, patient is registered for the first time. All these instances are recorded within the hospital setting through HL7 messages. These are called ADT messages, by the way: admission, discharge, and transfer. That's a good question, by the way, because it's easy to get confused. Okay, it's easy to get confused. Akshay says in HL7 there are messages typed like detailed financial transactions. DFT, yeah, all the the patient paid amount and all that stuff, and not only just patient paid amount, but rather there are some transactions within the hospital which carries how should I say this, all the different treatments the patient goes through. Okay, and um, for each treatment there are some medications involved. Okay, and there are some surgeries involved, and then there's our injections involved. So breakdown of those financial details, it's for only internal reporting. Okay, within just the hospital system, it's in within their billing system. They are not sending the bill to anyone. Akshay says, is there any link for EDI to it? Well, EDI 837 gets all of its information from the billing department. Okay, it gets all the data from the billing department. Billing department generates the EDI 837 and sends it to the insurance company. So that data is coming from somewhere. From where? From all these, all this data which is available within the billing department's database. That this patient got sick, he got the treatment, and this treatment is so-called chemotherapy. And within chemotherapy, the breakdown is this much for the radiation, this much for the nurse, this much for the doctor consultation, this much for an injection, the breakdown of everything. Okay, even though much of this information, insurance company doesn't get to see. Okay, so they just get the line item. There's a lot of internal reporting as well, which I doubt that you will be involved in. But I don't know if you guys know this, but many medications have a number of ingredients. Okay, many medicines have more than one ingredient involved. So when all these pharmacies do the billing, they have cost per ingredient. Okay, like some medications have like 4 or 5 ingredients, compound codes. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are different compounds within a medicine. If there are 4 compounds, there's a different price for each compound, and then you add them together, and then there's a final price. So pharmacies internally know what's the cost of each compound. But when the patient goes to the pharmacy and picks up the medication, he just pays flat $20. He doesn't care what this cyanide or whatever this particular ingredient or compound costs. They don't want to know. Do you get my point? What else? Try to present yourself as someone who's very client friendly and data centric kind of an analyst. Note this down. What do you mean by client friendly? So when you're working for a certain client, you will have different vendors, different external entities. Okay, or if you're working for any department, and so when you're working for a healthcare company, you're working for different other business groups. Okay, so present yourself as someone who's very willing to work with these different business groups, internal and external to the organization, and you have great communication skills. You have established a great communication channel with all these entities, internal and external. So you're a very client friendly person and very data centric. You're very good with data. You can write queries and pull up data. You can analyze data. You can look at data. You're very good with data, any kind of healthcare data. So very client friendly and data centric. Okay, kind of a business analyst. Just try to present yourself as someone like that. Gurdeep says, could you please let us know other links which are uploaded than you? Well, yeah, there are some pretty good links out there, and I can Edifex is, for example, one of them, and I can look into some more. I'll send it to you. Yeah, I can definitely send it to you. There's some really good links out there. You know, say they are internal external stakeholders. Could you please explain who are they? Well, I don't think the internal and external stakeholder is the right term. I would say internal external groups or vendors, or if you really want to use the internal and external stakeholders, let me give you an example. Okay, if you're really interested, let's say you get a job with one of these consulting companies like Accenture or Deloitte. Okay, and then Deloitte is implementing a project for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you're working for Deloitte. So your external or the external client or the actual client you're developing projects for is the Blue Cross Blue Shield, but you are directly working for Deloitte or Accenture. So you'll have meetings with people from both the companies. Accenture is internal to you, and Blue Cross Blue Shield is external. Okay, that's the actual client. So they're the external stakeholders. But then there are also some internal people to your within Deloitte or Accenture, these consulting companies, who are the SMEs who know stuff about different parts of the system and all. So you'll be working with both kind of people, internal and external. And just like that, when you're working for, yeah, but I think that's good enough. So I mean, does it make sense? I don't want to confuse you too much. I think SME is internal. Yeah, SME is internal. SME can be internal or external. Depends. It completely depends. What system you're working. If you are making a change to um, Blue Cross Blue Shield system, okay, then you would need some SMEs from their team and say, hey, you know what, this is how our system is structured. But then there will be some internal SMEs who have industry wide experience, and they say, you know what, look, we have worked on systems all over the world. We know how to make the right enhancement with the right design. Okay, so we are the SMEs of these kind of systems. So yeah, you will have participation from both. Okay, and then these are very interesting conversations. Akshay Reddy says, what does an EDI analyst do exactly? You know, EDI analyst is someone who pretty much works on troubleshooting of these EDI transactions, works with eligibility vendors, works with uh, claim vendors, or works with these clearing houses. He just spends his time with EDI transactions all the time. That's all he does. You could end up getting that job. You could. Does that make sense? Does it answer your question? Okay. What else you guys want to know else? What else? Any questions, thoughts, comments? What do you think so far? You ready for a mock interview or something? Nupur says no. Let me stop the recording.